Hello and welcome to Pandora Astrology's monthly horoscope for March of 2023. We are the astrologers of Pandora Astrology. I'm Jamie Kale Miller. I'm in Berkeley, California.
I'm Julia Mijas, and I'm in San Francisco, California.
Let's take a look at what's happening for you in March. So, Cancer, let's start with asteroid goddess Ceres. She is traveling along through the sign of Libra right here in your fourth house. The fourth house is, of course, a domain close to your heart, Cancer, because it's the moon's domain, and the moon is your ruling planet. So this is the domain of home and family, domestic life, heritage, and roots. It is a domain of feelings and emotions and having a rich inner life. Ceres here does bring her stuff into the purview of home. And she herself is all about things that connect us to the physical world, our physical bodies, the food we eat, and the ways that we support ourselves to feel secure in the world physically and also financially. Now, here's the rub. Ceres is retrograde. She went retrograde last month, early in the month in February. She'll be retrograde until May. And so financial tangles are going to come up. It's kind of inevitable. And so you may find that finances to do with your home directly, like perhaps your mortgage or your rent or utilities, or just the finances that you interact with in the space of your home, your office at home where you pay the bills and so forth. When Ceres goes retrograde, it's a time when it kind of gets shoved in our face that we may have become a little bit financially disorganized. Things maybe have fallen apart. Maybe it's time for some new methods and habits of organizing and systemizing how we run our finances. And also, because Ceres has to do with the body and eating, maybe how we feed ourselves as well. And so this is a really great transit to just make us look at those things and spiff up the ship. Now, the next goddess that I want to tell you about is Juno. She starts the month here in your 10th house. And Juno is a goddess of relationship, of partnership, most particularly of long-term committed partnerships, whether personal, such as in a spousal marriage or other form of LTR, or whether professional in terms of like a business partnership, for example. Juno is also quite the social maven, being a networker and a matchmaker. And in traveling through your 10th house of career for the last month, she has been very busy networking on your behalf at work. And the caution that I have about this, I mean, it sounds pretty good, right? And I think that it is. But the caution that I have is that Juno is traveling through Aries. And so it's possible that as you're networking at work and getting to know the people that you should know, or introducing the people to each other that should know each other, that maybe you've been a little too blunt, a little too sharp, a little too transparent, a little too hot under the collar, perhaps. So there's something to watch out for. By and large, I think this is a pretty good transit, especially if you do have a business that is a partnership or that brings you into connection with people like clients, for example, or people that you're an agent for, where you work with them one-on-one for their benefit. This can be a really great transit for those of us with those kinds of businesses. Now, as the month goes on and we get to the 11th, Juno moves on into your 11th house. She enters the sign of Taurus, where she gets a lot more calm and stable and solid. And she's in your house of community and friends and network. And I think Juno really likes this house because she's quite the networker herself. And this is a really great house for Juno to be transiting through if you want to, for example, organize an event, organize the guest list for an event. Like if you're planning a wedding some months out, this is a really good time to make a lot of the arrangements, especially pertaining to, who is going to be invited and how will they be seated at tables and those sorts of things. Really great transit for just that kind of thing. So social networking that's a little bit more on the personal side and less on the business side can be a great feature of this transit too. Hey, Julia, what's up with Venus, Mercury, and Mars for the Cancers of the world?
Oh, some good things to let you know about Cancer. Venus, the planet of art, beauty, and relationships, wherever she goes is where we find some pleasure that month, starts in your 10th house of career, public reputation, and authority figures. So Venus in this house can make you really sweet talk and charm authority figures easily this month, like a boss, like a police officer, like your parents. It's also a time where you might get more pleasure and enjoy your career. Maybe you're getting along well with the people you work with too. Then by March 16th, Venus enters your 11th house of long-term goals, friends, and groups. So Venus in this house is a very social transit. You might be finding, that you're connecting more with friends or groups in your life. Maybe you're being benefited by your friends in some way. They do something nice for you or you do something nice back for them. Venus in the 11th can also give you a little more luck and pleasure in pursuing a hope, wish, or dream that you've had for a while, since this is the house of long-term goals. And if you're single, this is a great transit to meet people through friends or through online networks, because the 11th house is networks of all kinds. Now, Mercury, the planet that rules your mind, starts off the month in the 8th house for just one day. That's a financial house. So maybe for that first day of March, you're getting your finances in order, thinking a lot about them. But by the 2nd, Mercury enters your 9th house of travel, expansion. The 9th house also rules education too, and Mercury loves to learn. So during this time, you might find yourself really preoccupied with faraway places, wanting to learn new things, maybe reading up about the world or wanting to learn a new language. Mercury in the 9th house is just really fabulous also for travel too, since both this planet and house can represent that. Then by the 18th, Mercury enters your 10th house a couple of days after Venus leaves here. And this is, again, is the house of public reputation. It's a house of authority figures and work. And you might find yourself really preoccupied by your career for the second half of the month, thinking a lot about it, strategizing around it. This is a great transit for public speaking because the 10th house is such a public house too. Now Mars, who's been in your 12th house for a number of months, not an easy place to have him. He did a whole retrograde cycle here, so he's been here since last fall, late in the fall, but still. And Mars is the planet of action, activity, as well as anger, impulsivity, and conflict. So Mars in the 12th being a house of self-undoing, a house of isolation, a house that's just very diffuse, that's very kind of mysterious. This may have been, the last few months may have been a time where you would get kind of itchy and irritated out of nowhere, and it would be hard to put your finger on it. It can also be a time where you're more inclined to keep your anger to yourself, to kind of bottle it up, and maybe even act behind other people's backs, or be, passive aggressive too, with Mars in the 12th house. Now, Mars in the 12th has a higher meaning. It can be a fabulous time for spiritual exploration, for service work, which are also represented by the 12th. But by the 25th, Mars is finally out of this house, and he enters your first house of self. So this is going to be kind of a high energy time for you the last week of the month, because you're really, really going to be, living your Mars very personally. So this is a good time to try to get out all that energy with a workout routine or do something that's personally very active. Mars in the 1st will make you a lot more direct about your anger. So if there are things you've been holding back on the last few months, it might come out when Mars is in the 1st.
Yes, and there it is. Now I'm showing it on screen. Well, there are a couple of moons that I want to talk about, and also a seasonal change, starting on March 7th with the full moon in Virgo. which you can see right here in your third house. Now, that might even seem like a contradiction in terms because the moon is very emotional, especially when it's full. Its cup runneth over, you might say. And yet it's in Virgo, which is very analytical and very practical and pretty emotionally restrained. And it's also in the third house, which is a cerebral realm. So what could it mean? Well, are you doing any writing right now? Are you doing any intellectual inquiries right now? Is there anything that you're researching that you're wanting to understand or know more about? This is a really great moon for just that sort of thing. It just puts you in the mood for writing that paper that you need to write or for researching that thing that you need to research. And it makes you want to do it really in a lot of detail. Now, we're calling this moon shape and mold in your quirky way. Virgo is the artisan after all, loves to shape and mold. So if you are working on a paper, this could be a really good time for editing, a draft into a more finely honed draft. And the quirky part comes from the trine to Uranus, which is just lovely and introduces a quality of innovation that even Virgo can live with. There's more harmony with Pallas Athena, and there is some stress from Mars, which could introduce a quality of, trying to push the river, rushing things along, not slowing down enough to really allow that moon to be as meticulous as she wants to be. So watch out for that Mars. Now then, a little later in the month, on the 20th, we have the seasonal change. The sun leaves Pisces and sweeps on into Aries. Let me just move this by 1 hour, and there you see it happen like that. And so this is the beginning of a new sign, a new season, and also a whole year, because this is where the zodiac begins. The sun right there in 0 degrees of Aries is the equinoctial point, and the moon comes and joins that sun on the next day, which is the 21st. And there you see the new moon in Aries really bringing this, vibrant and driving force of spring kind of energy to your 10th house. So new moons are, generally speaking, a time for new beginnings, and much more so when they land in Aries, and even more than that when they land in 0 degrees Aries, which is the point of the whole zodiac that is the most to do with beginnings. You'll see that there's a big pile of things here in your 10th house. So lots of drive, energy, and enthusiasm to make new beginnings in your career zone, or in the zone of your fame, your public reputation, your public life in general, and how people see you in your place of business. Mercury is here with this new moon, bringing a cerebral intellectual bent, and is part of the reason why we call this moon Clear Your Head and Begin Your Expedition. There are a couple of cautions about this moon. One is that Mercury in Aries is known for being blunt and direct, or perhaps sharp is even a better word, and sometimes can just, speak a little bit too much with his outside voice. So watch out for that. Also, we do have that square to pesky Mars rearing its head in this moon as well as in the other moon this month. So that can bring a feeling of inner irritation and a sense of frustration to both of these moons as well. And then there's the opposition to that Ceres that I spoke of at the beginning of this video when I was talking about, Ceres and Libra in your 4th house. But there's wonderful balm for the soul in the form of Pluto, which sextiles the moon and the sun so nicely. And so this does suggest very strongly that whatever you do begin under this moon is going to have a very solid start. If you want to know more about these moons, I do recommend that you head over to pandoraastrology.com and find the monthly forecast page, on which you will discover the videos for both of these moons, which explain them more fully and let you really apply them to your own chart, and give a lot of the other news of the month as well.
If you love Pandora Astrology's free and informative horoscopes, please do hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and share our horoscopes with your friends.
Horoscopes are fun, but they're also really general. If you want to explore this month's themes more personally, we'd love to meet with you in a real live reading where you can gain powerful insights and learn what you need to make the big decisions in your career, family, or relationship. You'll find the link in the description below. Enjoy this beautiful springtime, and until next time, we'll see you around the cosmos.
Bye-bye.